As families and the Uvalde community continue to mourn the loss of 21 people in last week's deadly shooting, scrutiny continues to mount over the police response as that shooting was unfolding. Last night on Fox 7 Austin News at 9, John Krinjak spoke with a professor, of the LBJ School of Public Affairs at the University of Texas.
So I think we were all kind of shocked when DPS revealed that 75 minutes went by between when that shooting began and when officers finally breached that classroom. What was your reaction when you heard that?
I've gone through a bunch of reactions. My first one is the same, I think, as everybody else's. Is I was shocked that it didn't take 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It took 75 minutes before they finally knocked through that door and neutralized the shooter. It's not what you're supposed to do. It's not the national standard.
The Uvalde ISD police chief, we've learned, was the one who made that decision, apparently, to shift from an active shooter response to a barricaded subject response. DPS bluntly calling this the wrong decision. Can you fill us in, like, what does that mean? And does that appear to have gone against protocol?
Well, in both cases, your objective is the same, which is to minimize the loss of life. If you have reason to believe the shooter is still active, is still shooting people or preparing to shoot people, you've got to go in immediately and stop them. If, on the other hand, you believe that they're holding hostages, that they're not actively looking for opportunities to kill anybody, then your best opportunity to avoid loss of life is to negotiate with them and see if you can get them to come out quietly and not have to go in shooting, which might lead to further shooting and further loss of life. So they did the right thing. They would have done the right thing had this, in fact, been a hostage negotiation situation. It clearly was not. And I think it's really the interesting takeaway from all this is that the police chief, who was in a position to make that call, engaged in wishful thinking. He wanted it to be a hostage situation because it was closer to his experience. It was less scary for his officers. So he decided it must be a hostage negotiation situation. But there was a lot of information on the record that had he had information about that, would have led him to realize that was the wrong response.
Yeah, and I mean, based on the fact that we had these 911 calls of people inside the classroom, 911 dispatchers knew people were injured there and needed help. What do you make of that? It seems to have been some sort of communication breakdown?
It sounds like. The best face you could put on it is for some reason the 911 operators were not able to get that information to the police chief who had to make the decisions at the scene. That's a whole bunch of reasons that might have been true. It, of course, should never have happened. If the operators have information, there has to be some chain of communication where the guy on the scene who's making the call knows what the operators know. If he didn't know what the operators knew, well, then the communication breakdown was the failure here. On the other hand, if you were sitting outside that classroom door and listening at all carefully, you're going to hear shots being fired because he was shooting in there. And it's hard for me to believe that anyone would consider that to be a hostage negotiation situation if somebody's actually taking shots inside that classroom.
Yeah, and we learned today Department of Justice is going to be conducting a review of the police response. They'll make those findings public. How important is that in your view, and what do you hope comes out of all this?
Two things. I mean, one thing is that you need to do a post-action response on anything of this kind. Even if it turns out perfectly, you can always improve it, and other people could learn from your good response. This was not a good response at all. It was a terrible response, and we can certainly learn from that. But I think, despite the fact that it was an awful response, and we'll know a lot more about exactly how and why in a few months after the DPS investigation is completed, after the FBI investigation is completed, I don't think we should be surprised that the response was awful. I think what we're going to conclude is that small school departments that have no experience in dealing with active shooters, that don't have the equipment, that don't have the training to be able to respond effectively, cannot be relied upon to do this. They're going to do deer in the headlights is apparently what the school police chief did. And we need to find a way of making sure that the people who do respond to active shooters do have the training, do have the equipment, do have the experience to be able to do this effectively. That the Uvalde School Police Department did not have that experience or training or equipment.
And yet they were leading that response. All right, Professor Bill Spellman, Thank you so much from the LBJ School of Public Affairs. Thanks for being with us, sharing your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you, John.